sure we have people welcomed from various parts of the internet here. This is sort of the pre-show.
All right.
All right, and I think our page is up. We'll go ahead and get that going. All right, Samuel, since the last time I talked to you, how have you been doing?
Doing excellent.
Very good to hear. Welcome to the third episode of Robert Conway Live with Samuel Roberts. This week's episode, we're going to briefly talk about a few events from the last couple weeks. Everything from legal troubles the band Ghost was facing, speculation on the Super Nintendo Mini, as well as briefly talking about Pol's aid in helping stop the Facebook killer, among other things, of course. That was especially a big one. Now, before we get too far into it, I'm going to go ahead and start us off with the blurb here. For those of you who have become familiar with the band Ghost, the band that dresses up like evil clergymen, essentially.
They don't dress up like ghosts. They don't put white sheets on?
No white sheets.
So they're getting sued for deceptive advertising then? Is that their legal troubles?
Actually, no. It turns out that several
sheets and they don't get it? What? Okay, so it's not that. What is it?
No, it's more of an internal strife, believe it or not. What happened was several former members are suing the singer, and in doing so, the band has basically come out with their identities in the process. One of the reasons this is such a huge thing is this band has gone to painstaking lengths to sort of hide their identity, if you would. And that's one of the reasons that this is huge news. Their lead singer, who sort of dresses up like a ghostly pope, if you will, he's sort of he's sort of kind of taken the reins on the whole thing, and the other members didn't like that. They weren't getting their credits for basic their music credits, which is when you're in a band, that's kind of unfortunate because it is a team effort. At the same thing, I think the biggest problem with this is the sort of demystification of the band Ghost. Like, these guys went to painstaking lengths to hide their identity, and that's one of the bummer things. In some ways, it's kind of like figuring out that Santa Claus isn't real or something like that if you're a kid.
Okay, can I jump in for a minute, because I'm having a little trouble following this. So, because you don't know who it is, but the Ghost Pope is some dude, right? It's not actually.
Oh yeah, no, totally. It's not like anything like that. It's just kind of like, yeah. Go ahead.
So, I listen to a lot of Megadeth. I don't know who the hell Megadeth's drummer is.
True.
Now, I can't say that it's really made that much of a difference for me. So is this like, what was the band Guar that always did everything in character? Do they have characters then? Does the Ghost Pope pretend to be like, I don't know, Pius II or something?
Pretty much. With each album, it's been like a succession line. So it's the character's name is Papa Emeritus, the first, second, and third. For each album that's come out. And, they sort of added a little bit of a character. It's the same guy, obviously, once you hear the voice. But that's kind of what it is. You could easily compare these guys to, bands like Guar, where they're definitely in character. We all sort of knew this was going to happen, but it's like, did it really have to happen this way? It would have been funny if it was like some kind of like, minor stage accident or something, and I think that's why it's sort of the bummer, because it's like, oh, legal troubles.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So
Well, that's
that'll
disappointing. I hope they get it worked out.
yes, I hope so too. In the meantime, there is a new lineup, and they seem to be going pretty strong. I kind of hope the rest of the members in the band, go on to do something great. And I hear that at least one of them has a project that's going on. So that'll be good to hear from them. Now, I guess the next big bit of news I'd like to jump into, I don't know if you followed it, but Nintendo has said that they're discontinuing their NES Mini. And
Yes, I did hear that. That was rather disappointing.
yes. And with that, rumors have started circulating that the Super Nintendo Mini is in the works now. And that's supposed to come out in Christmas. With that being said, are you disappointed that we're now going to get a Super Nintendo Mini, or is it kind of exciting?
I do all of my emulation just on a cheap computer that I picked up in a back alley in Tokyo. So I am not much of a mini person. I love the games. The games are absolutely timeless. When I was flying back from that trip to Tokyo, I had nothing better to do, so I downloaded Super Mario and just played it all the way back. But
oh yeah,
I think for a lot of people that's really maybe not accessible because they lack the knowledge to do that kind of emulation. So I think it's to a degree I think it's disappointing because I think people would have liked and enjoyed it. I'm not super familiar with the Nintendo Mini. My understanding is it's kind of like a miniature replica of a Nintendo that just has an emulator on board with like 30 games.
Yeah, that sounds about right. With the emulator, it's definitely something like that, and you're looking at it is kind of convenient in a way. It is a little on the cheap side, but it's made it a good way for people to go ahead and revisit the classics on sort of the cheap, at least on the TV side.
Well, no, I'm sure it works.
Hopefully,
those hardware, I did some study of them in college, and they are tremendously slow by today's standards. I think the NES and SNES have a processor speed that's measured in kilohertz, not megahertz. So any hardware imaginable, literally your toaster now could run these things just fine.
Oh, I bet. I mean, even hearing what we went to the moon with is pretty amazing. As far as technology's changed.
So it's a fun little thing, just hook it up. There's a lot of enjoyment in that. I've been kind of on a retro kick lately. I've been playing the original Megami Tensei after that one guy was giving me shit about not liking Persona 5. I went back and played the very first Megaten, which I'd been putting off forever, all the way back from I think it's like 1988 or something. And it's more fun than Persona 5.
Yeah, that is definitely the case with a lot of those retro games. Yeah, because I know you used the emulator you said with that. And as far as the Super Nintendo's going, I honestly I didn't really get too excited when the NES Mini came out. Because it's to be honest, I did play a little bit of the what's what I'm looking for. I played some of the NES games when I was younger, but to me those felt so archaic because when I was younger, the Super Nintendo had been out for a little while, and even the Game Boy was pretty advanced at that point, at least with the Game Boy Pocket that I had. But who knows? I mean, I think the SNES will do good. It's just a matter of getting a good lineup on those games.
Oh, I'm sure there will be. I mean, just the first party lineup alone is Well, better than probably the sum total of all the games that have come out over the past year.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. Actually, I haven't even bought a new game since the end of last year, so that says something. And with that, what else was there? So I was going to go ahead and jump from that to some drama that we had heard over at Marvel. You know, I know before you're not the big comic book reader, but this one kind of really made some waves. You know, we have this Indonesian artist who's Muslim, by the way. That's an important fact in the story. Who snuck in some messages into X-Men Gold #1, I believe was what the issue was called, pertaining to. I guess you could say, you know, they were anti-Christian, anti-Jewish messages that were put into the book. And I guess, I don't know what's going on with Indonesian politics, but there's a governor over there or somebody that's...
Indonesia is supposed to be the super nice moderate Islam. Pence was actually over there sometime in the last week talking about how it's Islam that doesn't chop off heads and, you know, throw acid in women's faces is a treasure for the entire world.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So they're the moderate Muslims, and they've got a problem with the Christian governor, which I don't know what prompted that. It sounded like the artist Adrian Saif, I believe his name was kind of riled up after going to a protest, which is what it sounds like, an actual protest, not the crazed out riots we hear about here.
Is he located in the U.S. or is he located in Indonesia?
Indonesia, yeah, that's where he's located. So that's where that went down at. Like I said, that's probably why we really don't know much on the Indonesians' background as far as that's concerned. And it's funny is I read in, I believe it was either comicbook.com's comments or CBR's comments, someone was saying, oh, it's such a minor issue, don't be narrow-minded, you know, kind of unfortunate that stuff's sort of going on.
No, burn them, fire them,
yeah,
get rid of them.
And so, with that being said, these messages were brought in there, and someone pointed that out. And to be honest, it would have been really easy to overlook it. There's not too many messages that, it's not uncommon for artists to put in subliminal messages. There's at least like a dozen articles or so about hidden messages in comic books. Like, I know another X-Men comic, someone was like trying to hide like the word sex and all throughout the book. It's actually kind of clever how they did that, but this one was a little bit more politically charged, and they picked up on it, and in doing so, they terminated the guy's contract.
Well, we know that Marvel's sales numbers must be truly fucking dire if they're doing that. Because this comes on the heel of their big, we're not going to do politically minded messaging anymore.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe they're down to selling, 10 copies a book of this female She-Thor, and they're looking at someone getting fired if they don't get their act together. Would be my guess anyway, because it's certainly not that they ideologically disagree with, hating Jews and hating Christians.
Well, yeah, it does go to that a little bit. I am going to say, though, one of the things that did surprise me was writer G. Willow Wilson. She's an American Muslim, the one that created the current iteration of Miss Marvel. She came out and criticized Adrian Saif on his messages and whatnot, and I thought that was pretty interesting, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, you'll always get Muslims who are willing to criticize other Muslims as long as it's safe. She's not in any danger for doing this. What happens, what the problem is when the other side is violent, she's certainly not going to stand up for any Jews if it would involve anything more than, random virtue signaling on her own. She's not going to put herself out there for that. So, no, I don't give her a lot of credit for that.
Got it. Understandable. And so that kind of niffed that one in the butt, and I guess you could say Marvel is going to state in future printings of that issue that the messages will be removed. And, I would say that it would be something to pick up just for, the collector's sake, but, we all know the collector's market in comics is, toast, essentially.
It's toast, thank God. Thing ever. I was a part of the collector's market for a while, but in my defense, I was 10. So, so I think my opinions on American comics are well known after our first podcast. What else do we have to talk about?
Well, I feel like we're just going through this at rapid fire speed. I guess one of the other, we're down to 2 other topics here. I guess while we're on books and whatnot, we can spend a little time talking about Zoe Quin's upcoming book, Crash Override.
Yes, good old Zoe Quin is, good Lord, it is now 2017. That book would have been a big hit if it came out 3 years earlier.
Very true.
I took the liberty of looking it up, and it is currently Amazon ranked 100,000, and it was above 100,000, which means it is selling less than a copy a day.
Wow.
It is, even in its subcategories, it's doing absolutely terribly. It is the 55th best-selling book on computer-based biographies. Several places below a long book detailing the adventures of the top Spanish raiding guild in World of Warcraft.
Really?
Yes. So it's safe to say that there is next to no interest in Zoe Quin at this point. I honestly had to remind myself which one of the many bizarre actors in Gamergate she was, and she's wasted her time. Unless, of course, she got a nice big advance from a publishing company, in which case the publishing company is going to eat the loss, and she'll walk away with a nice pile of cash.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Certainly possible.
Well, I mean, it is pretty interesting. It's like every minute we forget who she is, something comes out, and it's all like, oh, hey, remember Zoe Quin? Here she is. Here's the new scandal or new promotion going on, blah, 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 And it kind of just fizzles out from there.
Well, she's just fundamentally not an interesting person.
That is true. I think, actually, another ex-boyfriend of hers came out recently. You got to give the Ralph Retort credit for this. I think Ralph had him on one of the streams, and once again, just kind of confirmed what everybody knew from the beginning. Not too interesting, but I saw some of his tweets, and it's pretty funny. And even Ralph went as far as to verify the events that happened, essentially.
Well, I think the thing with Zoe Quin is that she really, really wanted to believe that she was at the heart of Gamergate, that she was important, that this was all about her. And it wasn't. It wasn't even remotely. No one really cared about her. There were some minor free speech issues with the restraining order she sent on her boyfriend. There was whatever that incredibly complicated drama was that kicked it off. But the reason Gamergate was so lasting and so influential was that it was about much more than this random dumb slut.
Oh, yeah.
So her book, of course, is going to fail. Her Crash Override project, which you'll remember, I believe, got a bunch of Intel money. Didn't they get a bunch of Intel money? At all. Yeah, because Intel came out and said they were going to donate some massive amount of money, like $300 million, to fighting harassment. And I think a lot of that went to Zoe Quin. So it certainly worked out well for her. But the book will flop. She's going to have to find something new because there's nothing left to say about Gamergate. It has been consumed into the wider culture. Gamergate is now Poll. Gamergate is now can't stump the Trump. Gamergate is now, well, Donald Trump himself.
Yeah, much to a degree. So yeah, I mean that's basically it with that. I know they were looking at a movie deal at one point about Zoe Quin.
That's long gone. Well, the thing is, you never can tell because none of this stuff has to do anything to do with commercial success. It's all virtue signaling. Mm-hmm. It's all, well, I'm a good person because I helped this woman who stood up against the wicked harassers. It has nothing to do with stupid Zoe Quin, though she did get a Law and Order episode, I believe.
Yeah, well, that was actually more of a combination of multiple people. The character that was based on that episode was a little bit of Zoe Quin, a little bit of Brianna Wu, a little bit of Anita Sarkeesian. Actually, minus the gender bending, a whole lot like Brianna Wu. But, at least that's what I got from the episode of Law and Order.
Well, you can't expect much of realism in the way of that. So
no. I mean, I don't know. It's definitely not something I plan on checking out because I really don't want to give Zoe Quin my money.
Oh, no, buying it is just out of the question. I'm sure it's terribly written. And
oh, yeah.
No one cares about this woman. It's not that interesting. It's the book will obviously flop. If you want more entertainment than you'll get out of the book, just look at its Amazon rank. Look at what is selling better than it.
Absolutely.
No one is buying it. No one is going to buy it. And you can contrast this to our side, where for a while Milo had the best-selling book on Amazon.
That is true.
Which probably means the best-selling book in the world.
Yeah.
Our side has gone on to prosper, and the anti-Gamergate side has just kind of remained stuck.
Oh, absolutely. There's really nothing going on with those guys at all right now, at least that I'm aware of. So we've we definitely hit a snag there. And without that momentum, the whole thing just kind of fizzles out. And occasionally you do see some people's faces pop up every once in a while. But that's about it. I've been very unplugged on that drama.
There's nothing left to be plugged in. I still follow all the people who I followed on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about other things. They're talking about Trump. That whole movement was essentially entirely subsumed into the political right, where it had massive influence. Tactics that were learned in Gamergate. More than anything, the thing that came out of Gamergate that was the most influential was the idea that fighting the left is fun. That you can have a good time fucking with these people. And
basically,
that transferred over directly to the election and directly to the election of Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that without, I mean, this sounds stupid, but given how close the election was and given the efforts that were made by the alt-right, by, I guess, the internet-based Trump people, you could say that without Gamergate, you wouldn't have had Donald Trump.
That's true.
A lot of people will tell you that Trump's success was due to, people in the upper Midwest, Wyoming, etc., who had lost their jobs, who had been totally abandoned by the left. And that's very true. But remember that as much as the electoral victory was, I believe it was 306 electoral votes, which is quite a lot. As significant as that electoral victory was, the vote margin was very small. And a lot of things were done online in the last couple weeks leading up to the election to try and drive it that not many people know about. So the same people that were, pushing advertisers to drop Kotaku instead were pushing the spirit cooking, the stuff that said Hillary's people were involved in Satanism. They were pushing those stories to everyone they could find in Florida, every Christian group, particularly every Hispanic Christian group they could find in Florida.
Oh.
So, and from what I heard, it was tremendously effective because evidently Hispanic Christians take that stuff extremely seriously.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
How much did that contribute to Florida? How much did the Hillary's Health stuff, which was, or the WikiLeaks stuff, which again was entirely a product of the online alt-right, have an influence on the election? Was it another 1 or 2%? Because if it was 1 or 2%, that's what pushed us over the top.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they ran a pretty good campaign. Well, I wouldn't say that, but I mean, as in like the meme campaigns were pretty solid, especially towards the end. Stuff like draft our daughters. It was brilliant.
It's brilliant, and it's always a question how much of that stuff is really effective. But I think in toto it had a fairly large effect.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of that, we've definitely brought up Poll, and this was another big story. Stevie Steve, as he's known as, the Facebook killer. Reportedly, Poll did their part in trying to help track the guy down. I saw this, I think it was the day before yesterday, and they finally got him.
Mm-hmm.
That they got a hold of his phone number, and they had basically been calling and texting him in order to get his cell phone signal to become, to get pinged so the police could track him. And I was looking, I guess the Pennsylvania police said they didn't know who was calling him, but somebody had been pinging his cell phone, and that's how they were able to finally track him. This, of course, was after he was stalled at the McDonald's that he was at.
I'm going to register a degree of skepticism to that. First off, if you've ever seen, any crime TV, you know that they can track you even if no one's calling you.
Oh, yeah.
So I am not 100% sure I believe that. In addition, the supposed responses from him for, a low IQ killer who is on the run after having shot a dude, those responses got some pretty good grammar. Pretty good grammar, pretty good spelling. While the guy is driving. So I am not 100% sure that Poll actually did that. But with so many of these things, it's more fun just to think, yeah, it was Poll. Poll found the guy. So whether they actually did or not, let's just chalk that up to Poll. Sure, great work, guys. You stopped the killer before he could kill again.
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely that. I mean, there's a degree to skepticism, but there's some stuff that's pulled up here, like, I think I pulled up a tweet right now with some screenshots where was it? Somebody sent their address to him. It was like, cash me outside, Rosenberg, Oregon. How about that? it's like, and it's just like, really? It's just like, why do you keep texting me? It is tough to tell. I don't think these look Photoshop, but it is a good.
Well, I mean, they don't look Photoshop, but also it's text on a gray background.
Yeah.
So
essentially,
that's not the hardest thing in the world to Photoshop.
Yeah. With that being said, Paul, do you think they had much to do with finding Shia LaBeouf?
Oh, that was 100% them.
I'll try not to laugh, but that whole thing.
And that was amazing. That's more fun than the election. That the idea of this, faceless internet mob just chasing this guy down wherever he goes is just, it's something out of a sci-fi novel, and it's utterly hilarious. I especially love how he retreated to the back ends of the Norwegian wilderness in a cabin, cut off from the outside world except for one data link. And they still found him by comparing the shots of his camera to all of the rental cabins in Norway. And they still found him, and they still tracked him down. It's truly amazing, and it's something I kind of regret not being on Poll and not being a part of this, but it's really something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I mean, definitely something like that.
And again, that's something that you didn't really see before Gamergate, to go back to what we were talking about earlier. A Poll would do pranks before Gamergate, obviously, or not.
Oh, yeah.
Generally, 4chan B more was doing pranks and stuff. But that level of organized shitlordery, for lack of a better word, was really something that only came out of Gamergate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're definitely right. Go ahead.
So I think it's amazing that, after, God, how many years, basically ever since the start of the post-war era, maybe before the post-war era, post-World War II, liberalism has been enjoying this massive march through the institutions, taking over everything, even fucking comic books. Even an industry that was originally as male-dominated, as consumer-oriented as comic books got taken over. I'm the first people to push back. We're not, the organized right. It was the fucking gamers. It was the guys playing fucking Mario.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of that has to do is, and I've definitely seen like your standard, right-wingers or, your average conservative. Most of them could care less. They look at that, they dismiss it as, oh, hey, it's just, entertainment for children, not really seeing the larger culture picture that's going on there.
Well, let's see. What else is there to talk about? I don't know. What games have you been playing recently?
It's still Overwatch, but I am going to gear up and play some Fallout 4. I went ahead and finally got the season pass.
Excellent. Are they done coming out with expansions for that now?
I think so. I think it's all done, which is fine. I can just go ahead and play through it again. I might need to redo the main story, just because there's a bunch of quests that I can't do. I picked my faction. I stuck it out, and there's still a bunch of achievements to go back and do for the other factions.
Can I share my Fallout 4 story?
Sure, go for it.
So Fallout 4, I played it. I did the main story quest fairly late, so I had a lot of time invested. I'd spent a lot of time, going all over the wasteland looking for my son, and finally I tracked him down to the Institute. I warp in. I find my son in the, in this little glass cave.
Right.
And I can't get him out. He doesn't seem to recognize me. It feels like he's drugged or something. And then this dude comes through the door. And I'm pissed off because, these people have taken my fucking son. I've been looking for him forever. And so I just blast the dude's head off and leave. Are you familiar with the scene that I'm talking about?
Yes. And if it's the guy I'm thinking of, that is...
Yes, it is the guy you were thinking of. It was someone simply marked Father, who was the leader of the Institute, who inexplicably came to me with no protection, so I just immediately blew his head off with a laser pistol.
Wow.
And went and finished the game as the Railroad faction. Oops.
Oops. Oops, indeed.
There's some kind of moral lesson there, but I'm not sure what it is.
Wow. So that just... did you even do the Railroad faction's quests, or...
I honestly don't remember. I think I just managed. I may have done the Brotherhood or something. I just remember blasting the guy's head off and not really thinking about it much more than that.
Wow. I wonder if that's still a glitch in the game.
No, it was. I
But
think it's deliberately intended.
it's intended.
Well, it has
Well,
to
I
be.
mean that.
Bethesda has lots of problems, but they're not stupid enough to know what's going to happen or to not know what's going to happen when the bad guy walks in undefended. He's going to get his head blown off in bats, obviously.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if I did it, I'm sure 10,000 other players did it.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Wow, that and you. Other than that, you hadn't really done anything else. You just found yourself at the Institute, and instead of talking to him,
I was following the railroad quest line because you have to follow the railroad quest line to get in. So the railroad sends you in. Oh, you're gonna find your son, find out. I forget what they actually sent you in there to do, but no, I blew his head off and left.
Okay, yeah. Well, that is pretty entertaining because I mean, yeah, you do miss out on some other quest lines. The faction I picked was the Minutemen. I just thought to myself, oh, hey, the Minutemen, these guys are fighting for the Commonwealth. I'll join this faction, and I didn't realize that there's like a point of no return in the quest line where you can't go back and get other stuff done, like the Liberty Reprimed quest. Or I didn't even take the chance to go ahead and try and infiltrate the Institute, because I know you're supposed to help out the one guy that helps you get into the Institute by finding his research.
I never did that quest. I never did that. I never did it that way. I got in via the railroad. I stupidly thought that was the only way to do it. Of course, it's a Bethesda game. Of course, there are 10 fucking ways into the Institute.
Oh, yeah. Well, that does.
So I have some breaking news for you to interrupt.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
We have a literal man bites dog story where Florida man is accused of biting a dog.
Really?
Yes. A Brevard County man, and doesn't it always seem to be Brevard County, was accused of biting the family dog. Police said the suspect told him he was trying to teach the dog a lesson. He became upset with the puppy who was acting up and held the dog down and bit her on the ears.
Oh, wow.
Charged
That's too funny.
And battery. So it's a literal man bites dog story.
Man bites
Florida,
dog.
of course. Though I recently heard something. This absolutely fascinated me. Do you know why it's always Florida?
I heard it had something to do with their freedom of information laws.
That's right. It's not that Floridas are particularly weird, though perhaps they are. It's that full police reports are publicly available in Florida.
Wow. Yeah.
Counties. So all of this weird shit is happening everywhere else in all the other 49 states, or 56 states if you're Obama, and you just don't know it. There could be, right now, in the next house over, a man could be biting his dog, and you will never know about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty crazy. I mean, yeah.
Something to think about.
It is something to think about. I'm going to say definitely we get some weird stuff out of Florida. It's crocodile or alligator country, so you got to, there's always some weird stuff going on with that too. But wow, man bites an actual dog. Did they say if he was successful in teaching his lesson?
They don't say if the lesson was successfully taught. Probably not, but who knows? Who knows what could happen? It's Florida. Anything could happen.
Anything could happen in Florida.
Yep. Well, I think that's about all I've got time for. Anything else you want to bring up?
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and close this out with a weekly music pick. And this is something I try to do on these shows. This week, if you're looking for some new music, check out the band Stitched Up Heart. They came out with their debut album last June. And they're playing in my neck of the woods tomorrow night, and I'll be there at their show. it's definitely if you're a fan of female-fronted rock bands, it's definitely something that's worth checking out. Anyways, I have linked in the video a link to their song. Oh, why did I forget their song's name? I had it on the top of my head. That's embarrassing. Finally Free. I have a link to their song Finally Free. You can watch the music video. If you like their music, support them. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in or watching this on archives. We'll see you next time.